Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Virgo December 2022 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, clairvoyant, and I have done a number of face-to-face over FaceTime and Skype readings for Virgoans from different parts of the world over the course of the last month, and if you might be interested to see what's involved in that and just find out some great information anyway, just check out the description below and go to the website, because that has a lot of interesting material on it, I think you'll find. Now, we're going to draw 5 cards from a deck called the Thoth deck. Now, the Thoth deck is one which is, well, to put it mildly, I think it frightens, there's the 2 of Wands. It frightens a lot of readers, I think, because there's a lot of occult imagery and esoteric imagery in the deck. And so when you are starting out, there's the Lovers. You will, of course, not have any understanding of the occult, which means hidden, and esoteric, Knight of Cups, and esoteric imagery that's in the depictions of the cards, which we will go through during the course of our reading in just a second. And you will, I think, find it very interesting. So, let's see what there is here. So, when I say it's occult hidden, it will no longer be hidden to you, at least as far as these 5 cards are concerned. But have a look at your moon and rising as well, because there's probably different cards in those. Be hard to say. And I may even read them differently if they're the same card, because it depends on how they're placed next to one another as well. Now, finally, let's draw this one, which is the Hanged Man, indeed. Well, why don't you come now? Let's sit together. I'll have a look with you at the imagery on these cards, and then I'll do the reading for you. Let's have a look at this 8 of Swords and see what is going on here for you. Well, here we have 2 long, straight swords which are standing in front of 6 knives, and the knives point in different directions. And the astrology of the card, according to the developer, is Jupiter in Gemini. Well, I might say something about that in a second. But let's continue with the imagery, shall we? We have these 2 swords here. They can indicate a choice between 2 courses of action, or just the inability to find the best action to take. Now, with a single sword, you know what you want to do, but maybe there's a degree of self-doubt or negativity creeping in. The energy of the 8 here, though, is scattered, but Jupiter does come to the rescue, as I'll get to in a moment. Now, these 6 background knives, this knife here is called a kris, which is an Indonesian knife. This is a kukri, which is a Nepalese knife. This is a scaramax, which is a medieval sword. This is just a straight-out dagger. This thing here is a machete, which is from Latin America, and a yataghan, which is a Turkish short sword. Now, the chaotic background further indicates what I think is some interference in this card, just as it is entitled here, as you can see, although I'm not a great one for titles, as you well know. Now, I mentioned there that the developer has applied Jupiter in Gemini. Well, Jupiter rules, I think here we have Gemini, the first decan of Gemini, the 21st to the 31st of May. Look, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and in order to get into Gemini, it needs to go 180 degrees away to the other side of the zodiac wheel. So Jupiter is weakened, and the inquisitive nature of Gemini further inhibits Jupiter. So a weakened Jupiter means that maybe you have the feeling or the thoughts, because swords is about thoughts, that you can't immediately get what you want due to too many, which is the Gemini aspect of it, distractions. Look at the distracting background here, which may or may not be self-created. In a sense, there's a worry here, and a worry which comes from thinking too much. So I would say that what you should do is let things rest and develop on their own for a while, as long as doubt concerning decisions remains, don't go for anything new. Now, Jupiter, as is said here, that is the harbinger, that is the bringer of unforeseen and unexpected change for the better. So any problem that you have which seems unsolvable now will find its own solution in its own way. You know, in some sense, I feel there is almost what I would call analysis paralysis going on here. But the solution is to take time out and do something different and let Jupiter come in and do its work and let things settle down. Then you can come back and look at the situation with new eyes. Now ask yourself, what alternatives are you torn between now? Well, just relax and let things develop. And say to yourself, I am relaxed and trust life. Now, there was somebody around, wasn't there, a court card. Now, this could be either a man or a woman, even though, for obvious reasons, I'm going to talk about it as if it is a man. The Knight of Cups. Well, what can we make from this imagery here? Well, the first thing is that he is the only, I happen to know that in this deck, you would expect a king or a knight to be wearing a helmet, wouldn't you? But he doesn't wear a helmet. And he's riding a white horse which leaps over a peacock, as you can see there. There is a sea of water underneath him, and his right arm is outstretched and contains a cup with a crab which is visible in it. A lot of Aquarius and a lot of Pisces around here for me, so I think they are going to be important to you. I think also this energy of Aquarius that I'm getting is that this is a person who is independent and maybe hard to pin down, but nevertheless somebody who's quite a humanitarian. And the Pisces aspect that I get to it, somebody who is sensitive, almost a dream-like nature, but somebody who, at the end of the day, really is unreliable. Now, just looking again, just quickly at these things that I pointed out, he doesn't have a helmet. This symbolizes openness, and it is a symbol of trust and receptivity. He doesn't do battle, and he's not around long enough for any commitments, and not around long enough to fight for anything. Now, he has a green suit on. This speaks to me of creativity, growth and renewal. The white horse is that of purity. It also symbolizes the power he has to have a vision of purity, of love, and of sensitivity. Now, this crab obviously is a reference to Cancer here, and this speaks of someone who can be nurturing and sensitive and home-loving. I think you will be during this time, but it's also a person that can retreat into themselves when hurt. The peacock in the West has always been a symbol of, well, vanity and ego, but in the East, the peacock is associated with perception and with wisdom, and its skin is said to be incorruptible. But with the knight leaping over the top of the peacock here, I think it also speaks of someone who's going through the process of maybe overcoming vanity to arrive at something more pure. He has a vision, a more spiritual kind of love and sensitivity. But in a nutshell, what I would say is that this is someone who has commitment issues. They're friendly, but sort of passive. They're mostly passive with the qualities of a Venus or of a weak Jupiter. They're friendly, but in that passive way, as I say. And really, he is on the whole so superficial that it's really hard to reach his depth. His name is written in water. He's the type of person who can have an unsustainable enthusiasm for things, and is somebody who is very much attracted to excitement. It's a sensitive person, but deep down, someone who is actually very shallow. There is a capacity for giving, though, and for reaching higher emotional planes. But I get the feeling, though, that This is somebody who, if you look at their background, it's almost an unbroken record of failure at this particular course of work or that particular course of work. And esoterically, as a knight, he's fire, and in the suit of water of cups, well, of course, there's a great conflict between fire and water, isn't there? And so I think that there are mental civil wars going on within him, which can lead to substance abuse. Now, the Knight of Cups, he's got large wings which he soars on his powerful white horse, and that green armour and the cup in his outstretched hands contains Cancer the crab. Now, the water sign Cancer can refer to family relationships, but here I think the idea of family needs to be enlarged. It needs to be spread out to include any chosen relationship, especially those which have got a deep commitment associated with them. Now, as for you, I think that you at the present, you yearn for an intensive interchange with people of like mind and a like outlook to you. How can the change or the interchange in your relationships be enriched? Seek out your true family, the community in which you feel at home. There you will find the quality of communication that you've longed for. But say this to yourself: I am finding the contact that I now need. Now let's have a look at the Lover's card, and the Lover's card is packed full of imagery. Now, some of which I'm not going to get to because I'm cognizant of your time, but let's have a look to see what's here as a start. Well, down the bottom here, the developer has associated the sign of Gemini to the card, which I agree with, and you can see that reflected in the twins here. And this is a Hebrew letter. That Hebrew letter is Zayin, which means sword. Now that implies division, as a blade has two edges and a sword cuts through things. The idea is set up, I think, in this card, therefore, that where you learn from being in a duality, you are part of the creation, and you have incarnated into a body that gives you the experience of learning. Because in spirit, of course, there is no duality, there is one. Now, the sword creates duality and polar opposites out of unity, creating form from the formless, separating night from day and pleasure from pain. It is through the sword of creation that you recognize your individuality. However, due to this separation, you continually strive with the infinite unity of spirit, even as you fear that reunion, as it involves dissolving your identity into nothingness. Now, this separation, it also makes you want to connect with another human being. That is why you are attracted to people. Now, obviously, as I say, the Lovers is associated with the mutable air sign of Gemini, which implies, I think, that a choice needs to be made with this energy. And it also further extends the concept of duality in this card. Now, just to have a closer look at the symbology here, there is the hermit in the background here, and there's his hands outstretched, and he's holding a scroll. Well, the hermit represents the creative power of the universe and of fertility. And that scroll that is there, it actually has on it, you might not be able to make it out, the word logos, which is creation. And the sign that he's making with his hands there, that's a magical sign. It's called the sign of the Enterer, and it's about offering out the intelligence of the universe, of the scroll, so that you may learn from the higher source. But there is a white light behind the hermit's head that's there, and that's important because that is the beginning, the emanation of the divine into the material place of space and time. Now let's have a look at Cupid up there. You'll see him. We've got time, I think, just to look at him. Eros, or Cupid, the Roman god and son of Hermes. Now, he's blindfolded, he's got his arrow, and the blindfold, you see, I think refers to the unconscious desire of the soul to unite opposites. I think that's really where we get the meaning of this energy here, as defined by the seeking of a relationship. And the arrow of Eros is your directed will. In this top right-hand corner, there is Eve from the Jewish and Christian tradition. On the opposite side is Lilith. Now they represent, I think, the beginning of form, and they put dimension to spirit, because it is the woman, of course, who takes the fertilized egg and then grows it within her. Now there's a sword archway going on here. You probably can see those swords. That's the gateway to this divine light that's there. And the yellow hues that are around, they are a reference to, for me, for Christ consciousness and for Krishna consciousness and Vishnu consciousness. Now, the king and queen, well, they really wear the crowns of the emperor and the empress. The king, he has a red color to him, really. And he has a gold crown representing the sun. And the queen is white-colored, tincture to her. She has a silver crown representing the moon. And she has an orb and the cross representing stability and structure. And she has bees on her robe indicating fertility. And she holds the Holy Grail, or the womb, and the cup has a dove symbol on it, which is Venus. And where the robes turn orange here, that's where the red and yellow colors of the king and queen overlap, and they contain the symbols of the serpent and the bees. Now, I suppose down here, just to quickly run through them again, this red lion. Look, his tail is somewhat different to what you would expect, isn't it? It rises between his legs, indicating the erect phallus. And the eagle, well, that is Scorpio, the exalted form of Scorpio, with 4 tail feathers, which represents wisdom. So these two together, they represent wisdom, which is also a major theme on here. Now, of the children that we see in front of us here, one is holding these flowers down here, 4 white roses, female, receptive. The coloured child, or the child of colour, has the club, which is phallic and male, and they stand on the wings of the Orphic egg, which is speckled with white and black, representing the colours black and white of material reality. Now, nevertheless, I think that's probably about as far as we've got time to go through some of those. What does this mean? Well, I think it means that you need to look at all angles before making a decision at the moment. You might also be called upon to be a mediator or a peacemaker. And there's definitely the need to look at harmony in relationships. I do think that you are going to make a major life choice on the direction ahead of you at this time. Even though it may not seem to be a major choice at the time, you will nevertheless look back in 12 months' time and say, I remember what happened back there. Now, this is also talking about a mutual sexual attraction here, and probably a connection. But this isn't a one-night stand, because this is a major arcana, and so I think that the sexual intimacy is one that's going to continue and bloom. There's attraction, approaching, connection, and the union of opposites through love, and becoming conscious through relationship. I think there is also, as I say, the need to make a choice. So you could, as you were with this card here, be at a crossroads. You could be going into a business or partnership with somebody else. Certainly, I also get the feeling here of an engagement, a proposal. And in this case, I do get the sense of a commitment and falling in love. Of course, if you're already in a committed relationship, I see that love as being one which is deepening. Do you know, I think that because you have drawn this card, I think it indicates a wonderful and exciting love relationship. Current relationships are, look, they're either going to deepen or they are going to end. Now, new methods for personal growth and integration of your own opposing aspects present themselves as you turn towards and interact with somebody else or with a group. Maybe ask yourself this question: what do you seek from the people you love? What comprises a fulfilling relationship for you? Say this: I enjoy working with people of all ages. I have inherent people skills. I am emotionally sure about what I need and don't need, about what I want or don't want in a relationship. And I'm now ready to deal with a partner in a way that I've always longed for. Now we shall turn to the Hanged Man. Now you're probably going to be familiar with the card, the Hanged Man, but probably are not familiar with at least this set of esoteric imagery that's with it. If there is any, I'll have to have a look. Let's have a look here. Now here the Hanged Man hangs from his left foot from an ankh, which is the ancient Egyptian sacred symbol, and there is a coiled serpent wrapped around his foot. Now the bottom here is a symbol for water, and over here is a Hebrew letter. That's the Hebrew letter Mem, which means either water or, more correctly in this case, ocean. The water connection is associated with me with, again from this Lover's card, of where we looked at Eve and Lilith, of fertility, of creation, of growing things within. I'll just mention in passing that this ankh here, even though it does have a cross in it, look, on my playlist I have a thing, Astrology for Beginners, and I talk about the spirituality of the meaning of a cross in mystical terms. Now this is a symbol of life, but it's also connected to the Hebrew letter Tau, which means cross, and is therefore connected to Christ or Christ consciousness again. Once again, we see this silver or clear light coming through. That is the light of the divine. And the green that's around here is associated with Venus, about love, relationship, enjoyment of other people. It's also implying, I think, that the divinity is infinite love and has infinite love for its creation, and it's manifested as it's manifested. It also implies that every experience is actually an aspect of love. Now the green air, as I say, as well as the colour, that's the influence of Venus. The body shape of the man, it's a triangle really, isn't it? Which is a triangle which on top of it has a cross. And this is a symbol of light entering the darkness. The cross is matter. The triangle, the Holy Trinity. Now one can look at the Holy Trinity in terms of Christian tradition, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, if you want to put masculine titles to them, or the Hindu Trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. This black coiled snake down here, this is, I think, a symbol of the lowest form of creation, as these colors are associated with space and time and matter, right? And the black waters, well, they're the black waters of the womb that I was referring to earlier, where things grow and come to life. The serpent is coiled 4 times, and 4 is the number of structure and manifestation. And here represents the serpent of new life, which happens through letting go of that which is spiritually holding you back. And I think finally what I'll just say is, I'm not going to talk about these squares, there's too much there, but these rays of light, that come from the man's head. There are 18 of those. 18 shows up in Hebrew words which basically mean life. Now, this is the end of a situation for you which has been stuck. You're letting go, giving up something. I think it's a decision that you've made to let go of something, and you're learning to see in a new way the necessity of breaking through old patterns. And you're experiencing a metamorphosis. You're becoming a new person, more confident, with greater self-esteem. It's now possible for you to recognize where you are stuck and in which areas of your life are congealed rather than flowing. There is nothing to do. The mere act of perceiving your reality clearly makes the transformation possible. In what areas are you stuck? Are you ready to recognize them and let them go? And say to yourself, I let go and realize I follow and accept the will of the divine in my life, which reveals itself to me step by step. Now that takes us finally, I think, to this, the Two of Wands. And the Two of Wands, and we'll get through this quickly for you. First of all, it has Mars in Aries. And there are two things crossing themselves here. Look at the top of these things here. They're known as dorjes, which is the Tibetan symbol for thunderbolt or lightning bolt, and they're used in sacred ceremonies. The heads of these things, they show change and disruption when force acts. Now the snakes, which are on the arrowheads that you see there, they talk about change and renewal as a result of acting dynamically with force. The force in this card has the power to change things and to get things moving. Now there are 6 flames in the center. Again, this is a reference to, mystically for me, with Christ consciousness or with Vishnu consciousness or with Krishna consciousness. Now the sun is also mystically associated for me as a planet with the number 6. And the sun is exalted in Aries, which is a really good thing. And Mars is also the ruler of Aries, so it's in its own sign. This blue background here, I think it shows clarity for you now. After you've made a decision, start putting things into place. Sometimes a situation needs being taken hold of by the hair and just dragged along to obtain clarity and to work out what is the right thing to do. Now, in summary, you have the idea of the force of the two strong wands and the association, I think, with the divine here again. Now, the two wands might indicate a situation in which there might well be some upheaval, the thunderbolts, before clarity, that blue background, and harmony is established. Harmony because of these 6 flames and the sun and the divine upside, which is associated with it. I think you're planning a path forward in your life. The potential that's in the Ace of Wands has now become a direction for you. So this card indicates the need for you to make a plan for the future to achieve success. Stepping out of your comfort zone, perhaps, and place of security in order to progress your life onto the next phase and set of experiences. There is an urge here to discover that there is more to life than you currently know. This energy indicates that it is not a random process, but that in order to move forward, you have to make ideas concrete by turning inspiration into specific goals and writing them down to action them and make them more conscious. I think there's travel around here too, maybe career changes. Change in direction is indicated, but we saw that with the Lovers. You have an action or an idea of what you want, and you now have the world in your hands to shape your path through your actions. It really all systems go for you, and this has been completely dispelled by this time. Well, what a fascinating spread of cards for you. Good job. Well, I'm sure you'll agree with me that this is a very, very interesting deck, isn't it? The Thoth deck, and it provides an unusual sort of a reading, different to the types that you might see before. Certainly the imagery is unlike anything that you see in other decks. But anyway, next time, of course, we will be using another deck because I do change them each month, as you know. So, until I see you again, remember one thing, and one thing is this, and it is that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.